So I figured I'd just share some of my first few prints, maybe a couple of the issues ran on this, and a couple of other doodads. So let's get started. So this is my Ender 3. I'm actually going to take this off the mount for a minute. So nothing fancy, it's just standard Ender 3 with a couple little mods. These were my first prints. Right after I assembled it, this was the first thing I did. Came out pretty good, I think. This is using Total Pack, I think is the name of the filament. White, and this was Total Pack black. Black came out almost as good. With the orange, which is by Alpta, A-L-P-T-A, I think it was. I've had a lot of problems with adhesion and variable things, and I think I just got it dialed in last night. Someone who used it on one of the groups said you need a much higher temperature, 220 to start, and then you can work down to 210. So that's my orange one. So a couple of the mods I've made is I made this little wire management guide here, and this basically keeps it from pulling the PLA straight down and kind of snagging, and it seems to be working okay. It came with two different mounts. One is this piece that just presses into the side, and then it comes with this other mount where you take off the horizontal bar and you jam this down the channel. The only thing I don't like about that is having to unscrew this if I want to do something, change something around. So anyway, nothing big. Clips. This is a standard mod here. All my mods I've done in orange. I did one in black, but these clips just keep the wire out of the way. And this is the tray I made. Now, when I originally made the tray, I ran into an issue. I did use support because I used the vented model, but I guess there's two options with support. One is, I think it was called everything, and one is something that it touches. And when it was printing this, as you could see, it did not install the fillers. So when I did it the second time around, I told it to do everything. I did run into a problem, you may or may not be able to tell, is the end pieces, the end circles here, or this is actually the front, it was not creating the little bridge pieces. So it was going to have the same problem where it was not going to create this top piece. So I have these other clips I made. They're about maybe a third the size of the other ones, and these were a goof. I told it to print 11 of these, I think, and they were popping off the board because I was having problems with the orange adhesion. So I stopped them. They're narrow clips, and what I did when it was printing is I just sat this on top of the print like this, so it would kind of fill a gap there, and it worked out perfectly. And I did have to babysit it for a while, but after I did that, it came out pretty well, I think. And this one broke only because when I was poking out and pulling out the little filler pieces, it popped, but that's not going to affect anything that I'm aware of. And that's just so, if you look under here, there's the vents from the main board. And this is different from the other ones I've seen, where the other ones have this piece right here over on the side, so it rides, I guess, higher maybe. I printed this one just because I like the divider tray and the vented holes. And this just fits into this right here. It's hard looking in the camera, trying to put that in at once, so let me look a little differently here. Sorry, there we go. And that slides right in. Oh, look at that. That was one of the little fillers in there. It finally popped out. All right. Now, that goes in much easier now. All right. I'm glad that's out now. And it has the little logo from Creality here. And I can also print another shorter drawer up top here if I want. I've seen that as well on some of these. So, that, this had just got finished printing last night. And this tray is kind of useless. I guess I could use it to keep screws when I'm doing something, but my daughter likes it, so she puts her change in it. Another thing I printed in two colors. I originally printed it in black because I was being lazy. I didn't want to change the filament. But this goes behind the unit, but I reprinted it in orange, I want to say yesterday. And this keeps the cable from snagging and catching on the back. so that it rides nicely over a curve instead of snagging. And when I turn this around, I will show you that as well. A couple of the other things. This was a problem when I printed. This is the first orange. It was printing fine, and I came back like a couple hours later, and there was thread everywhere. What happened was, again, the orange did not adhere, and this was just sliding around the board like this with the nozzle. So I just kept this as a reminder of that. A couple of the other little pieces here. This I didn't see until the other day, and I really like this. If you look here at the SD slot, sorry, a little bang there noise. It's hard to see. Maybe I can light it up a little bit. A lot of people complain when they put in the SD card, micro SD card, it could fall in between the gaps and then it ends up inside the box. And I saw this yesterday or the day before, like I was saying. And this basically, you take the top cover off here, 2 screws here, 1 in the back, and you take one of the screws off the board, and this pops in and it fills all the gaps around the SD slot so it doesn't accidentally, you know, pop in like it was doing before. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So I printed out one of those. I'll be putting that in as well. Another thing I did is I printed this back plate, and I picked orange, and I think I did it only because I saw Neri, and if you've been looking at 3D printers a lot, you've probably run across Neri on YouTube, N-E-R-Y-S. Good guy. This is a bottom cover for the Ender 3 control panel. I printed out the one with the speaker or buzzer hole in it, and I also printed the one which has a top to it, so it had to create a support here, and I initially had problems with this adhering as well. Again, orange has caused me a lot of issues, it seems. A couple other things. I got a mess here because I've been printing. I printed 2 of these little tool holders for the top. The first one I printed, obviously you could see what happened here. This thing pulled off as well. Also, if you look at this, this back hook started to lift during the print. And, I mean, otherwise it was fairly decent. But if you look at this, it's thick. The second copy went much better. But if you look at that corner, thinned out, so it started to lift apparently. And this basically goes on top of the printer right here. Use those, I forget what kind of nuts they call them specifically, like they're like a spinning wing nut or whatever, but this fastens up top with some countersink screws, and you can put all the tools that came with your Ender on top here. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that yet, but again, it's a learning process up front. And a couple of other things I printed was this little fan shroud here. This I think I would have liked to have printed in black, but this is more to keep things from falling in. I noticed a lot of the filament, the orange gets very webby when I get the print settings set as good as possible, and it ends up getting in this fan and also in the front here. I'm gonna have to take this fan shroud off to clean that out. Got those there. Yeah. Dust gets in there too. But this, you just loosen those, take out those 2 screws. You will have to put longer screws in, and I have to take these 2 out anyway to put the SD micro card block. But this goes here, and it's low enough it won't interfere, and that'll keep things from getting put in there. What else do I got? So someone was nice enough to design something for the Dodge Ram. I have a 2014, and there's a little cubby hole on the dash, and there's a bracket by like Pro Clip USA. It's like $35, $40, and it's nice. But on top of that, you need some other pieces. So I started to print it, and it started lifting at the edges. And that's when I learned about brim. And brim, my understanding, and I've been using it, and it just creates like, default is 20 lines around the outer perimeter first, and then it touches these, and that basically helps things from curling up. So, once I learned about brimming and skirting, I was on my way to print something a little better. This does have a couple of little funny things going on about it, but you know, this is perfect for my Pixel 2 XL. All right, so what I plan to do right now is put these on the back, or one or the other. And there's one other mod I did in the back. But in order to do that, I had to buy some extra screws. Now these are supposed to be stainless, and I know that not all stainless screws are magnetic. However, when you buy them from a company, you expect them to all be the same. Some of these are not magnetic at all, and some of them are extremely magnetic. And I only realized that was the case because some of the dividers popped off, so I wanted an easy way to take out the screws, and the magnet wasn't working in all cases. You know, you can hear it working on some and not others. So this was a link I saw on Mary's. I bought this on Amazon. It was kind of on the expensive side, but for me, I'm going to use a lot of the screws anyway. All right, let's mount this to get this out of the way. Give me 1 second here. And I will probably, I'm going to later download this video and cut out all the little pieces that aren't needed here. All right. And let me move the stand over. This is just a microphone boom stand that I modified to hold the phone. Works pretty well. Saw that Cheap Geek did that. Okay, so let's unplug the printer. I'm gonna pick this up and turn it around. Hoping I'm not snagging anything in the process. Let's plug this phone back into power just in case. And let's look at one of the other things I printed here. In the back, this was just taped to hold that rounded edge corner on temporarily. These will be coming off, these plastic pegs. But if we look underneath here, you will see, let's see if we can get that. There's an orange cap here. I printed 2 of these out. The second one is right here, and this goes on the other side. And I just popped one in, and that, because the aluminum was just cut, or milled or something, has sharp edges, and this keeps it from, you know, from marring up. Now, most of the prints I've done have been just to improve the Ender from its package, and I think a lot of people do that from the beginning. So these little caps are not needed. Now, originally I was going to put this in already, but these holes aren't threaded from the factory, and I know you can get M3, 4, and 5, or at least I've been told, pre-threaded. Yeah, sorry. They will tap their own holes as they go in. I don't know the proper name, but that's one of the reasons why I bought the screws, because I only had enough screws to make one in. So I got my screws here, and one thing I bought many years ago on sale at Sears, and I'm finally going to get to use it, is my tap and die set. This was a big set, and it was really inexpensive. It was on sale. I had a Sears coupon, yada yada. So that's what I'm going to use. Now, you probably don't necessarily need cutting oil because it is aluminum and it is soft, but I'm going to use a little 3-in-1 for cutting oil. And my tap and die out. I haven't had to use a tap and die since I had to tap the block in my engine when I had rebuilt it just to chase the threads. Sorry, you're staring into blank air right now. Let's get you over here and look. So, there's the 2 sets right there. Looks like a pretty nice set. Now, I don't remember which screws go in there. I think it's the M5. So what I'm going to do is figure that out. And from there, I will take one of the dies and thread it on, make sure it's the right size. And then once I figure out what that is from the die, I will get the tap and tap it. Here is the screw set I bought. And like I said, the magnet, some of these pick up really nice. And some, they don't pick up at all. And the ones that don't pick up at all, you probably can't tell, are much shinier. Now these are supposed to be stainless. And if I look at this one, it looks like there might be some shinier and less shiny. Now, I don't know what the deal is, but I will probably put a review accordingly on Amazon that I questioned, and some of them had really bad Allen keys on top for this. It wasn't molded properly. So I am going to take an M5. I think the 8 will be too small for this, because remember, we have to do two things here when this goes on. It has to fit through here, and I want enough threads for it to hold on. And that probably is enough, but we'll see. I'll tap the holes deep enough for that. Mr. Kraska. Yes, the cutting oil. I'm using 3-in-1 oil because I don't have any cutting oil. I don't know if you caught that or not. I do have WD-40 as well, but I'm not willing to spray that in the kitchen. Stainless has chromium, nickel, yeah, but these are all supposed to be. I'm not going to disagree with you, and I did a research, and they say some stainless is magnetic, and thank you for having a background on that. That's appreciated. I just put the magnet, but a lot of these I could pick up with the magnet. That's why I question some of them being stainless and some not being stainless. Yeah, got my 3-in-1 oil that I'm going to use, and hope I don't make a mess on my nice butcher block here. But I'm going to grab the longer screw just to easily tell which die fits on that, to make sure I got the right one, and then I will grab the proper tap. Okay. Now let me grab a little flashlight so I can see my tap and die sets here. Okay. I hope I have the right one. This says M5-9. For some reason, I remember M5-8 being a magic number. And the M5-9 is definitely not it. So I'm going to try the M5-8. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. 0.8, I should say. And that threads quite nicely. So we now know that this is an M5.8, which I think I remember seeing on the packages. They were labeled well for the screws. So now I'm going to look for an M5.8 tap. Okay, M5.8 tap. M5.8. There we go. Mr. Krasker, I don't know if I asked you, I believe you said you were retired, but what was your background beforehand? You seem to have a good knowledge of several things, so I'm just curious, to be honest with you. And I am going to have to hang this off the edge, otherwise I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to fix the camera in a second. I'm going to make sure this looks okay. And the one thing about this, as well as the cutting oil, you want to make sure this goes in perfectly straight, parallel to the threads here. I only need to thread the bottom two, but I have this out, so I might as well thread everything. And I tried putting this in without, you know, threading it, but it obviously wouldn't go in. Electronics and electromechanical. You know what? You may have told me. I did electronics back in the day when I was in school, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So here's one of the handles. This is actually, like I said, a really nice set from Sears. Speaking of Sears, I think they're pretty much abandoned the floor. They had like 2 or 3 floors in our mall here, and now they're even less. They're opening up at Dave and Buster's. Now I need the bottom two. Now the general rule, my understanding, tap and die, is you go in, let's say a turn, and then you back out a half a turn. But I will start slow and maybe do it in halves or something. But it is a taper on the tap, so I will go in and then back out and go in, and I'll re-oil if I feel necessary. Oh, it's slipping on this jig here. It's because I didn't have it set, so let me put that back on. Let me retighten that. This handle seems like a really high quality, but the threads themselves don't Now that I got that a few turns, I am going to put a little bit more oil in there and put it on this little funnel here so I can drive it in. I always want to get a lathe, but I think if I buy a lathe, I'll be buying a wood lathe. As a TV and radio engineer, you have to be a jack of all trades. I agree with you. I'm by no means professional. I did so much with electronics back in the 80s, but everything's changed so much, and I never kept along with it because everything else busy with my work, you know, in the IT field. But I used to build so many things, and it was so fun. Now, you never want to force the tap in, because, and Mr. Krasker, you correct me if I'm wrong, I understand my friend owned a machine shop when he lent me the tap for my engine block, is these are hardened, and they can just snap if you're not careful. So you never want to force it. Turn it in a half a turn, turn it back out, or whatever you feel is needed. Now, I'm going to take this out, and just to show you all the material that's on there. It's not going to focus too well, but you can see that. And I'm just going to wipe it off, and I will put a little more oil on it once I get back in there. Just get it setting and let it funnel in. I'll pour it up on the top. Yes, they will snap. Yeah, I've never snapped one, but I was told it would. Very easy to break a tap. Yeah, when I used the big tap on my, I was building my Oldsmobile 403 motor. I wanted to chase the threads for the head bolts, you know, to make sure they were clean. And then my buddy was like who had the machine shop, who unfortunately just recently closed down. Second generation working there. They had to close down. They just couldn't compete with, you know, globally. All right, so I'm going to take this out and see how far that went in, just to get an idea. And as always, Mr. Krasker, thank you for joining. That's probably enough, but you know what? I am going to go in a little bit more. I don't want to have to break out the tap and dissect another place. If I want to put something stronger on here, that might need a little more. So half turn in, let's say roughly, and I'm turning back 1 or 2 turns. I'm not in a hurry here. And like I said, these M5s, I read from somebody that these M5 screws were available in a self-tapping screw. But, and I love self-tapping screws. A lot of our file servers at work, the screws were self-tapping that went into the cable management. And that's what I used to use, were those special, you know, Torx. That Compaq was the manufacturer. It's now more known as HP, or now even HPE. Tighten that up a little bit more. Yeah, last thing I want to do is, this tap and die set, I still think I paid a lot for it. I might have paid it like, I think it was originally like $120 or $150, but after all the coupons and everything I had, I think I paid well under $100. Now, you can get them even cheaper, like Harbor Freight or something like that. But at the time, this was a great deal, and I knew I needed it. I needed it for something at the time, and I don't remember what. But again, it's a tapered thread, so it'll try to go in straight, but you do not want to drive this in crooked. I wish I could make you a moderator, Mr. Krasker, for this. You could type for me. You have most of the answers, right? That one wasn't going in perfectly straight originally. It looks good now. I don't know why I can't make you a moderator. I've tried before, and I thought maybe it's because I wasn't monetized. However, I think it's because I have to set this up in advance on from the web browser, and then I can select a moderator, so it seems. After all, it's very rare for you to miss one of my broadcasts. So again, thank you. I'll tell you, doing live streams has made me really lazy, because I don't want to do regulars to edit anymore, you know? All right, let me pull this out because it is, I can see the oil gushing, but there's got to be a lot of chips in there. So let me do that, get the chips out. Put a little more oil on there. Again, this is my butcher block from the kitchen island that I made. And the last thing I want to do is get 3-in-1 oil on this thing. All right. Quarter turn. This felt like it was binding. It's going in straight, but quarter. And I think I misspoke at the beginning. I said, like, you know, as an example, turn in, half turn out, but really it's more like twice. You know, if you go in, let's say, a quarter turn, you back out a half or more. That's the way I recall it. But Mr. Kraska, my friend, you can correct me where I'm wrong, but I like to back it out enough so you clear up the threads, and then I go back in again. I often speak backwards. The best book to have is the Pocket Reference Book. You'll have to send me a link to that. I actually just bought a woodworking book. I could have got it on Kindle edition, but I like regular books. It's from Mark, I forget his last name, it escapes me. But he's the Wood Whisperer, and he put together a book about woodworking with old and new tools, you know, hand tools, whatever, to make joints and whatnot. And I'd like to learn. Oh. Butterfingers. Lucky I did not snap that bit when it fell. I cannot seem to tighten this enough. It's a problem I'm running into. I should probably clean that off since it fell. But yeah, I'm assuming you meant pocket reference for this, but I don't want to make any assumptions and look like a fool. I'm probably taking longer than I need to for this, and on a live session, people probably don't care to hear most of what I say. Quarter turn, half turn, backed it off a bit. Now I like the black color, but like I said, I do an orange, so if I'm ever doing a video with this or something, I can easily say if it's orange, it's a mod that I did. Now, I did not design these mods. They came off Thingiverse. Thingiverse is pretty awesome. People take the time to design these in whatever CAD program they flavor. And then I used Cura as the slicer. And I'm still learning. This is very new to me. I'm used to CAD. That was something I did many, many years ago. And I think I'm good. I'm going to put this tap away. What did you say? I'll text it to you. Yeah, that's why if I made you a moderator, you could do texting in there, and it won't allow you to do links. I can understand why they do it, but I said I was going to do all 4, but to be honest, I'm just going to do 2 for now. These are my Scotch shop towels. So, is it of? I was starting to say the screws are not all the screws are magnetic, and what I read about the screws is, you know, I gotta move this over. That's why it's not focusing. So let me push this back a little now, and that should focus more. Let's see if I can get that low to a point. It's gonna be a little sideways, but I think sideways is better than not being able to see it at all. Okay, I am going to get 2 short screws, and I may steal the short screws at a later time for something else, because you know, you use a shorter or a longer screw because you can, and then later you need it for something else. I'll text it to you. Yes, thank you. I think I told you that. All right, and there's a little bag of tools that came with. And the Allen key came with Allen wrench, whatever referred to it. It has a ball head, so that's nice, and then a regular side. And I just need to find the orange guide. Now, the reason why this is used is when this goes back and forth the bed, it has a tendency of catching on the back here. And eventually, that is going to wear a hole. And if I could hold on to something, that would be great. And this here, I think the design, maybe I'm wrong, could be improved. I don't think you need this to go back as far. I think you could have it a shorter throw, because now this adds several inches, maybe 2.5, 3 inches to the back of the unit, which I think could be better spent. Yeah, this is only plastic, so I don't need it to go in far. But let's see what we got here. Very nice. Glad I finally have a use for that tap and die. I was going to bring out my tripod to mount the camera on. I was like, nah, but I should have. It should be behind me, this camera mount. So, the other side, I'm going to lift this up as much as I can so it doesn't scrape the base. There. Now let's check out how this works. Very nice. And I meant to do this before, but I might take the edge off this right here. Maybe some sandpaper. I'll grab a knife, just scrape it so it's a little more round. They also have a nice mods, a chain link where this can ride up, so it's out of the way. But now I have this mod here, and this is not going anywhere. Let me just make sure I snugged it enough. Doesn't need a lot of pressure. It's just to let the drag here. All right, let me pull the camera back. Yeah, camera doesn't want to go back anymore. All right, as long as it doesn't get in my way. Lift and spin. I have a habit of when I lift it, I grab the threaded rod, and that's not a good thing. I'm going to end up bending it if I'm not careful. All right. There we go. So now I'm going to probably print out the other bed for this, but this is out right here. I could put in all my, well, not all, but some of the spare parts I got. So dump those in there. I know some people don't like drawers because they're a place to store junk, per se. However, for me, I think it's good. I wonder if this will fit in here. It will not. However, since you could put a drawer above this, I could just stick that there and it would be fine. Although I don't like the idea of a point near the cables, so I would probably put this face down. But I like it for the little parts. And what else we got here? We have this little fan piece. Now, I do not have, what is it, cap screws, I think they're referred to, the rounded top ones. However, I do have the regular ones, so what I'm going to do, are you going to acetone furring your parts? You know, someone asked me that the other day, and they have a cool gadget that I saw. It's like a container, and you press a button, the top comes up, and you put your parts in, it goes down, and you put in like a, I don't know, it was like a cap full in it, and then it I don't know if it heats it, whatever, but it gets smoky in the chamber from the acetone, and it smooths all the parts for you. I thought it was kind of cool, to be honest. Now, I did have a light here a second ago. All right. So, okay, I answered that question. So, here's this right here. Let me see if I can't find the right size Allen key for that. Well, it seems a little big. Well, I think I have one other size. It's nice that Creality, they included all the tools you needed. One thing I did realize though, is I've been using this putty knife to get the parts off. What a pain this was. And I was struggling a lot. And someone, Neri, I think I saw her first, used a chisel. So I had a cheap set of Harbor Freight chisels. I just got the heavy one, and since it's got some weight, you just tapped it a couple of times, popped right off. So that worked out well. I'm going to get into plastic welding. My brother has, he did some plastic welding for me for something once. So this one is too small, it seems. The other one was too big. Is there another size in here? I was pretty sure I grabbed all the sizes there were. Well, apparently I did not. Alright, let me use this side for leverage. Because that ball end, I don't know what the quality is of these, but that ball end is probably the weakest link here. There's only one place I need the ball end. It's where it gets close to the mechanics of the belt and stuff. It's hard to reach in. And these are probably a little too short. I'll set these off to the side. So instead of the cap screws, I don't have cap screws. I did order some screws, more screws. I can't remember if it was countersunk or cap screws. However, I will... there's one more back there. That's not going to work. Once I get that loose, at least they tighten these screws. I've heard some stories with these that some of the screws were pretty loose. Oh, this one's an extra long screw. All right. Let's push this back. And let's take the plate off. And here we go right here. You can see that there's a fan on there. A lot of people I hear are rewiring this fan because this fan only comes on when the heater, I think it was the heater comes on, or the cooling fan for the filament, to cool the filament. And you want this thing running full all the time. So as my understanding, people are taking this fan out of the connector and they're rewiring it to constant power. I do see a 12-volt lead there, but I'll probably grab it from 24-volt. These all fans are 24-volt. There's a 24-volt supply. So let's see what we got here. So I need to take out that Allen key down there. I'm probably going to need my nice pair of needle nose. I'll have to grab that in a second. And I did unplug this. I'm just double checking myself. Yep, there's the little screw. And here's that little doodah. It was like glued down by the sound of it. Let me grab another flashlight here. Okay, yeah, it was hot melt glue. So as you can see, this has got a nice channel cutout. Kids are making lots of noises here. Okay, there it goes. That fits pretty good. What I should have probably done was look to see, and then look in the front. Let's see if I can show you that. I'll take this off the stand. Again, I did not design this. I took it off Thingiverse, and you could see the orange around there, and that's going to keep the SD card from going inside the box itself. And I think that's worthwhile. You know, I never had that problem of it going inside until I read that it was a problem. As soon as I read that as it being a problem, oh, I hit a wrong button here. As soon as I read that it could be a problem, that's when I started having problems. All right, so there we go. Let's bring the light over here. And I need a longer screw. I'm hoping that that's an M3, and I am getting a screw that is a bit longer than the other one. So this says rotate device, so for some reason it thinks it's upside down. I'll take its word for it. I just had that screw next to me and it rolled away. Okay, so apparently I lost the little screw that was originally on there. There it is. As you can see, this is the original screw, and that's the shortest M3 screw I have, and that is an M3 by 8. So hopefully you can see that okay, and hopefully that is short enough, because I do not think I have the washers for this. So let's see if it's the same size Allen key. It is not, so let me grab a bigger Allen key. Perfect. Probably should have checked to see if the threads were the same first. A lot of things I should have did here, right? I'm going to take this out, and I am going to pop this screw in because there is some artifacts or whatever in here. And I'm starting to think that this M3 is too big, unless it's just the way it was extruded. So I am going to thread this in. And I am going to purposely strip this. And by stripping it, it'll make it easier for me to spin this when it's there. I'll clean out the hole. All right. And that's not a lot of thread left there, so that might be perfect. So let's go back in here. See if I can't rest this flashlight in here without causing too much trouble. I think that helps. Okay, let's get this back in here. And again, I'm hoping this is an M3 bolt. We'll know soon enough. Now I am getting a little resistance, but I think that's because of the plastic threading. I'm threading into the plastic where I stripped it out on purpose. Yep, that's the right size. And that's good. I'm just going to give it a little snug. Make sure it looks good in the front, and it does. So now that's in good. Perfect. Now I'm not going to bother with hot glue gun right now to get that back in there. That's downstairs. That's a review for another day, my hot glue gun. Okay. Next step. Oh, I keep turning my flashlight on low. Is we got to get this cover back on. And let's go back here. And we are going to put the back screw in first. Now what I do want to see is why the screw was so long and it fits into the extrusion underneath. So that's going to cause me to swear a lot, I think, trying to line that up. I don't think you can see that. So let me get in there a little closer, get my flashlight on, and that's it right there. I think it would just be easier if I put the Allen screw in, the Allen wrench. Now this plate was over too far. It was causing this left vertical extrusion to not sit level, but luckily I had read about that when I had ordered this from Neries. Like I said, he's a good guy. You should go check out his page if you're interested in 3D printers. He does like 8-hour lives. It's kind of cool. All right, so now I have to get my fan shroud. Here it is right here. And I am going to see if those screws are long enough, first of all, if it's even possible to get long enough. Again, I got to kind of strip out those holes there. I think these actually might be long enough, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think so. As long as it goes through the threads in the inside a few turns, I think that's all I need, because it's not like these require a lot of torque. So lesson learned, once I make one of these, if they get a screw in, I'll probably take a little drill bit and just make the hole a little bit bigger. Let me thread this through the plastic a little bit, and then once I do that, I'll put this plate right back on like here. Problem is, if it's hard to turn going through the plastic, I won't know if I'm cross-threading it into the plate itself. Okay, this one seems to be a little short. Let me see. No, it just caught, but you know what? It's not worth it. I am going to grab a longer screw, because you put too short of a screw, it starts to strip out. Guess what? Yep, you ruined it. So, let me grab a couple more number 3s, or M3s, sorry. I'm sure there's an engineer who's mad at me for saying that. And here's what I got. That's the original, and this is the longer one. And like I said, I can look to get some... I ordered some countersunk screws, I believe, because there was a couple of places I needed them. And it's unfortunate, Lowe's and Home Depot does not sell M3s, so I have to actually go on eBay or Amazon or whatever and buy a boatload of them. So, since I am changing out this one, I am going to change the other one in the front so it matches. The one in the back I'm not so worried about. It's out of sight, out of mind. So let me take this out. Again, 2 different sizes here. Again, my hands are in the way. I didn't realize the M3s were going to be needed where I was doing my work, but luckily these other type of screws or bolts. I always say screw instead of bolt. I don't know why. Here we go. Back, had to get a coffee, and that's all right. Like I said, this is one of those places where I think the black would have looked better, but because I want to be able to show people the mods I made, I chose orange because Neri said, oh, I did these in orange for this reason. So I says, okay, that's a good enough reason for me. All right. Now, nothing's going to fall in. Let's say I'm doing something. Something will fall on top of this. It's now no longer going to go in the fan shroud. Plus, it doesn't look cool. Looks like I got a root-style blower system going on in there, you know? Maybe I'll get a little chrome. I'll get some chrome, find a little chrome air filter and put it on top of... Would it clear? Yeah, if I get something short enough. A little paint maybe. Make it look like I have a roots blower. Root style blower. Okay, and we got one more mod to go. And this is just to get it where everybody says, you know, these are the mods you should do. So I'm going to take off this control panel. And let me find the next Allen wrench for that. Take out these 2 screws. Oh, doesn't use that one. Oh. All right, so apparently there's another size here that I don't see. This must be it. There we go. This is piece here you have to put on. It doesn't come on out of the box. Okay, take that screw out. And I'm going to turn this over, and if you look, this connector goes on the third. Now, there were a couple of versions of the cover for this, and the one I printed had the relief for this, but the other thing was one of them didn't have this piece back here. It was just fully open. I am just going to size this up first. Make sure it sits right, and it does. And you do need longer screws. Now this is one of the reasons why I ordered the countersunk screws, but I don't have those today. So I am going to take out these 4. Oh, that's a bad solder job. Someone didn't use any flux remover on that. So I'm just going to check to see. So this doesn't sit completely flush here, which is okay, because it'll get pulled down a little bit. So whatever screw I take out, I know I need to put one in a little bit longer. Let's see if this is the right size. Hey, got the right size. My fat fingers are in the way, sorry. 1. All the screws that I take out today, I'll put them in a separate bag, just so I know if I have to go back and get those screws for any reason, like if a mod I put in was causing some problem, interference or something, you know. And I think this is going to use more of that same size screw. So I have already the M3 by 8s. I've already used 4 of those anyway, right? And 1 inside, so maybe 5 of them. So these are all short. I was just checking Mr. Krasker, make sure no one else didn't make a comment and I missed it. I hate to be rude to missing someone else who's contributing. Now this is loose. Okay, so now I need to put on the plastic cover, and like I said, I agree that this would have looked so much better if it was in black. However, just to show the mods, and I actually got 30 pieces of the M3, so that's actually good. But now in the future, I know that the M3s 8x8s are the ones I'm going to need most, and you can see that's probably good. And I will, like I said, have to. I think I got the countersunk screws coming. Bolts, not screws. So I will replace those out at some point when I take it back apart. It won't be critical. Okay, that one's in. I might end up having to use something a little longer. It looks like it's just grabbing. The kids in the background. My daughter's friend is over. We're having a play date. A little bit of artifacts in the way here from the print. Plastic welding, you had started to talk about that, and I don't know if you had heard. My brother did some plastic welding for me. I forget what it was. It was on one of my vehicles for something a long time ago. This might be a little too short, so I need to get a longer screw. It's going to go deep inside the channel. So let's try a M3 by 20. That alone looks like it's too long, but we will see. Yeah, so he's a mechanic by trade, best mechanic I've ever known, the only person I ever trust to touch my vehicle. Later on, he started doing body work. And now, you know, I won't get into what he does, but, you know, he still does the same line of work. But like I said, he's the only person I trust to touch my vehicles. I always buy extended warranties on my vehicles because I hate to bother them. But when you trust somebody to do work on something, it's hard to, you know, a lot of dealers these to try to take you for a ride, and he's caught them in lies for me. So, I mean, I can work on most of my own stuff, but when it comes to something that I don't have the tools or I don't have a lift to work on, you know, I talk to him. But like I said, when you know someone and you trust somebody to do something, you want to go with them. Manually screw that down. It's getting snagged up on something. I might change out those 2 front screws too. I put the by 8s. I might put by 12s. I wish I had some by 10s. But yeah, I'm gonna take those front ones out and put the by 8s in there. Okay, and I did say I was going to take out these back screws because I don't think they're long enough, to be honest with you. And I am going to put in the by 12s. So I'm really glad I bought this multi-kit. Yeah, I feel better about that. And the big thing is going to be hope that I didn't break anything, like I said, when I turn this back on. Oh, wrong size. I need to buy 12 here. They do seem a little on the long side. The way I'll find out is to see if the display sits right. When I use the countersunk screws, I may have to go to cut the screw short. And since I don't have a cutter for it, what I'll do is just put 2 nuts on the end, and I'll use my cutter, and I'll cut off the bolt, and then I'll unthread those other 2. And there we go. So let's see the display, if it feels loose or not. It feels good. I'm going to just snug up these screws a little bit. I have a hard time seeing if I'm where the plastic's touching. Last thing I want to do is damage the board. Yeah. Yeah, that feels solid now. And the gap is now gone. So that pulled in everything nice. Okay, and again, I don't know why you would not want this back piece on here, but apparently some people do. So what I am going to do is prop this in such a way, let me bring this back, so I can nicely tie up everything. Since that draw's going up, this is going to come up and maybe over. And I got to be careful because the bed, well, that looks to be as low as the bed goes, so maybe it's not a problem. But I'm going to fold this here a little bit lower, and then we'll come this way. And I see, so I need to now fold this probably once and twice to get it to go the other way, because the tang here, the little key, is towards the front, and underneath it's towards the back. So I could do a double fold, but let me see how I can do this. If I was to fold that reverse, well, I don't want to fold that reverse because I want it this tucked in as far back as it'll go. So if I fold this backwards now, like this, yeah, that's not going to help me at all. I'll just have to do what I didn't want to do. That's all right. It's not the end of the world. Just going to double snake it, and I'll tidy that up later. Now I got to find the right size Allen key again, because I do not have it in hand. It took me 2 years to find a good carpenter to put a new front door. You know, I'm not a big fan of having like Home Depot and Lowe's do something, but I had them put in a front entryway for me, a door, and there was one guy, Steve, his last name is escaping me, it might have been Williams or something. Man, how meticulous was he? He spent the whole day putting the door in, and he made sure his cuts, he would go and cut something on the miter a joint, and he would just keep coming back and sneaking up on it a hair at a time and did it. He was so good, I made sure I waited like a couple of months for him to be available to do my back door. But now he left, and now he just does kitchen cabinet installs for like a big cabinet maker, you know what I mean? You know, good finished carpenters. My house, I just found out, the company who's supposed to work on my house, oh, we can't find a contractor for you to do the work. Well, you're general contractors. It took you 4 months to realize that? You can't find someone to fix my house? Get into another line of work. All right. You might be able to hear Mary had a little lamp in the background. Now, first thing I'm going to end up doing is losing these screws, so I'm just going to put them in my new tray. Same thing here. And here. Yay. Now, I'm not putting the screws on purpose on the left side because it's got all the little holes there. All right. Now, let's see if this thing actually powers up. I would expect it would. I didn't do anything that would compromise it, but anytime you take something apart. All right. Let's see. Power it up. Can't remember if this was an intake or exhaust, and I don't remember which way the fan blades are spinning. That's the other thing, is I cannot see if this fan blades are spinning now here. That was the way I knew that the filament cooler was not on, because some of the Cura stuff turns it off and it's not spinning. So now I'm going to have to pay more attention to that. Heat won't rise as easily now with this here, but I think that's good. So let's see what we got here. Let's do a quick bed level, because I'm sure I knocked something out of level here. And bed level. Well, it's got a preheat. So I go into tune. Nozzle. Go up to 210 nozzle. Well, 220 for this orange stuff. I found, someone told me that they found 220 for the first layer and 210 for the subsequent layers. Bed, I always do it at 60. You can lower it after so many. And the fan speed is the fan speed for not only the cooling fan for the system board, but also for the filament cooler. And I'm just going to go all the way up to 255. And go to the main menu. And we got that bad boy heating up. With any luck, we'll know if I broke anything. I use the paper technique to level this. As soon as there's some drag on the paper, I leave it at that. Let's see if I can't get a better angle here. I know it's cockeyed, but that's the best I can do right now. I'm still gonna print out a green dog. I got a black white. I've only printed one thing out of the green, was a keychain. I want to see if the green and the Alta filament has the same issues as the orange. It probably does. But that being said, the white from Total Pack is better than the black from Total Pack. I don't know if it has to do with the dyes that I use for this, that have different melting points and stuff, but I'm learning as I'm going. This is my first 3D printer. Okay, the nozzle temperature is up there, and just waiting for the bed to completely heat up, although the nozzle temperature is dropping a little bit. And it is oozing, so let me do what I'm supposed to do and clip that out of there. I don't think I could get this to go down too low, but basically this has too much drag, so I'm gonna, if looking from the top, I'm gonna go counterclockwise to lower the bed. But really, when you're spinning it counterclockwise, you're from underneath, it's tightening it, which brings the bed down. So it just depends how you look at it. So it has some slight drag, and I think that's enough. You basically go around twice. I downloaded this off Thingiverse, the bed leveler. Some people do it by looking underneath, so they look to see when the light comes or goes. I'm going to loosen that up just a tad. You can feel the drag and the motor giving you a little resistance. The stepper motor is holding its position. I'm being cheap. I use the same piece of paper. This feels too loose. And again, I had this thing upside down and all sorts of things since the last print. So I'm just, alright, that has a slight drag. And after this goes around twice, it draws a thick line here and then draws a square twice around. That's a little loose. Now I did have to adjust on the fly during my last print because these beds are not flat. A lot of people will take a mirror because usually it's the tolerances on mirrors are better. And it has a slight drag now. Slight drag, that's good. You don't want it to be too close to the board because then you're smushing the filament too much, that first layer. And that's not good enough. That feels good.
I'll come down, okay?
Sometimes the square, that's why you do a brim or skirt, because sometimes you don't have a... Chris the Butcher just popped on. Hey, yeah, I'll have to pop on his. I'll be off here in a little bit. Tell him I'll be there shortly. Take care. Thanks for joining. That's good. Thank you again. And this has that slight. I'm going to give it a little more bite. Just a little nudge. That's good. Now it's going to reheat the bed, and it dropped the temperature on me. I don't know why it did that. It's in the program. Let's see if I can get you in there. So it's drawing that orange line. Do you see how it's getting thicker? Let me get you a little light there so you can see. There was probably air gaps in the filament. So now it's going to go around twice, and it looks like a nice. And the way I tell if this is too transparent, then I know I've got the bed too high. If it's got a little bit of a bump and good adhesion, you know, I just pull on it a little bit, I know I'm good. And again, that's my first observations because I've only been doing this. Now if you look over here, that's what I'm talking about. If you look, this is thinner and more transparent in this area. That tells me, while I might have this misadjusted, but I think this bed has a bend in it, and that's why you're seeing that. That's why people add the glass in the mirror. I was having that problem earlier, so I was on the fly. I was loosening, well, tightening the screw technically, which brought the bed down to give it a little bit more of a gap there. This light might be a little better to light things from. And the new line this is drawing is on the outside. So it's going out versus in. This circle, the inner square, excuse me, is not getting flatter. Now that I've adjusted that front right corner always causes me a little bit of trouble. I'll see if the filament is any thicker over here.
Okay.
Yeah, it lowered the bed temperature too, so that's all right. It's doing a third one, but it looks like it's going faster this time around. Now let's look here if I lowered that bed enough. It does have a decent bump on it now. It's still not as high as the other ones, but I think it's okay. I think it takes 4 minutes for the self-print, but I didn't realize I'm already an hour and 10 in this. I will probably download this video when it's available, and I will speed it up, re-upload it. You can also, if you're watching something like this, what I like to do is get through the riffraff is you play it back. YouTube has supported for a few months now. Is the you can play it 1 1/4, 1 1/2, or 2 times speed. So you got a little lift there. So that means that side probably has to come up a little bit. See that? I was able to pull that off. Some people adjust the stuff on the fly. All right, I am now going to disable the steppers. You never want to forcefully move the bed when it's trying to keep the steppers in place. There we go. These seem pretty good. It was just that last one. Could be when I lowered this side, it affected this side a little bit. And we got our nice little square there. Nice. All right. Well, this is coming off. It's about to fall off, so I'll see if I can hold that up a little bit. I didn't want to tighten it too much on the butcher block. Alright, can you see me now? Alright, here I am. Well, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, if you found it useful, give me a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. Hit the notification bell so you know I put a new video. I have a vast range of things. I do food. Just started with the ender. I do a little woodworking, digital decorating for the holidays, that kind of stuff. So I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Take care.